Thank you, Mark, and again, some wider insights that we may not have been aware of, Assembly members. Okay, I'm going to ask Tony Duffin now to join us. You will have heard from Tony in a previous Assembly meeting in his other role, which was in terms of CEO of Analifi, but today he does chair an important group on the National Drug Strategy looking at alternative pathways rather than the coercive sanctions that may exist. So, Tony, up to yourself.
Thank you very much. I know I've only got 10 minutes. It's Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock. I'm sure everyone's tired. I'll try and keep it as interesting as possible. Strategic Implementation Group 5, Alternatives to Coercive Sanctions. Cormac O'Keefe, the crime correspondent, said to me on social media the other day that I should shorten the name, but it's not within my gift. So I'm going to call it SIG5, as we move down through. I'm going to explain to you what SIG5 is, where it fits in the structures, what we're doing, and focusing on the health diversion programme. You guys are all experts on drug policy now, so you know about the National Drug Strategy, but it was drawn up in consultation with all stakeholders and launched in 2017. I was at the launch. It was a very positive launch. We had the Taoiseach there, we had the Minister of Health, we had the Minister of State with responsibility for the National Drug Strategy. And it was drawn up in consultation with the state, with agencies, with public service, civil servants, public servants, the civil society, etc. And there was a public engagement. So, it was well received. It's a good drug strategy, and look, the difficulty we have is implementing it. Let's be frank, right? So. The National Oversight Committee is responsible for the implementation of the National Drug Strategy. It's chaired by Minister of State with responsibility for the National Drug Strategy, and it's the highest, policy table in the land. And again, it has all the stakeholders sitting around it. And that is the group that's responsible for the implementation. However, there's a lot of actions in there, and in the midterm review, the Department of Health designed and defined new subgroups that would look at the actions. And as you can see, 6 strategic implementation subgroups, an early warning and emerging trends subgroup, and a research subgroup. And I know this is pretty dry stuff, but this is the area where we meet up regularly before the National Oversight Committee. We look at our actions that we're responsible for, and we drive them forward. There's lead agencies there that are responsible for each of the actions. So SIG5, as I said, I would call it. What are we doing? Well, we're looking at to oversee, 5.1 is oversee and support the implementation of the health diversion programme. I'm going to talk at length about that in a moment. Just to touch on the others, we're mapping alcohol and drug treatment services provision nationally, incorporating service availability and referral options for those going through the criminal justice system who use drugs and alcohol problematically. HSC and probation service are working on that mapping exercise. I'm due to have a meeting with them shortly in my role as chair, and we're going to be working on getting that moving. Evaluate the Dublin Drug Treatment Court and recommend the future direction of drug treatment courts nationwide. Important. It's been discussed a lot here today, and I'm sure you guys have heard more about drug courts during the course of your deliberations. Look, the evidence isn't great for drug courts. I'm just going to say that. Internationally, we need to evaluate our one and see what's going on and see what's working well and not. And see what comes out of that evaluation. And Department of Justice have the funding for that, and they're working towards getting that evaluation started. And then there's 5.4, strengthen policy and practice with regards to alternatives to coercive sanctions and share learning with EU member states. What does that mean? It means we're doing a mapping exercise right now where we've had a meeting this week with the people who are going to be doing it. It's going to look at what is currently available, like the adult caution scheme that the Assistant Commissioner mentioned earlier, and other forms of alternatives to coercive sanctions. Indeed, it's going to look at things that have happened at grassroots level, things that are already happening. Alternatives to coercive sanctions are nothing to be scared of. We already do them. I want to talk to you about the health diversion programme now. which is going to be the main one, really. So how will Ireland's planned health diversion programme work? Again, I'm pretty sure you've seen this before, but I am going to touch on it again. So drugs will remain illegal. Gardaí will divert a person found in possession of drugs for personal use to the HSE for a health screening and brief intervention. There will be 2 stages in the health-led approach, whereby a person in possession of drugs determined by Gardaí to be for personal use. On the first occasion, a person will be referred by Gardaí to the HSE for a health screening and brief intervention, where their needs will be assessed and they can be referred to drug treatment services if this is required. On a second occasion, Gardaí would have discretion to issue an adult caution. A referral to the HSE for a further health screening and brief intervention can also take place. On any subsequent arrest for possession of drugs for personal use, a person would not be included in the programme and would be dealt with through the criminal justice system. So that's going to happen. It's not a debate, we're working on it. So just to be clear on that. What is the difference? So I know that last time you met, there was a lot of emphasis on Portugal. I know that Nuno Capaz was here talking to you, and you had I was here and I saw you guys interact and ask questions. So I just wanted to reflect on what is the difference between Ireland's health diversion programme and Portugal's dissuasion committees. And, you know, in Portugal, the dissuasion committees, they have administrative sanctions and fines at their disposal. They can do that. Indeed, if someone is in front of the dissuasion committee and the dissuasion committee decides that actually this is more of a criminal justice issue, they can be sent to the courts, and vice versa. If the courts decide that actually this is more of a health issue, they can send them to the dissuasion committee. So there's an interaction there. In Ireland, drugs will remain illegal, as I said, because I want to emphasise that, and a system of depenalisation coupled with a health diversion will be put in place. And for my part, the primary difference is in Ireland, all people found in possession of drugs for personal use will be guaranteed 1 health screening and brief intervention, whilst in Portugal, people are assessed every time they are found in possession of drugs for personal use. And that, to me, is the primary difference. And I would say that the Portuguese model is a very good diversion model, so that's great, but it's not the only country in Europe that has a version of DCRIM. And Croatia, Czech Republic, Estonia, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Spain, Switzerland all have some form of decriminalisation in their countries, right? So we're not doing anything wild or different by moving towards our health-led approach. And you know, the reason the national drug strategy move towards a health-led approach is because the Irish model isn't working, and that has to be said. That's why we're here where we are in 2017. This is why we're doing this. So what is SIG5 doing in terms of implementing the health diversion programme? Keep an eye on the time. So in October 2019, I can't read that; it's too small on the screen. I gotta get this one up. I don't need glasses quite yet, but there we go. In October 2019, an interdepartmental group was established to implement the health diversion programme. The group is tasked with examining the need for legislative change, the phasing of the implementation, and to look in more detail at the costs involved. As part of the work, the implementation group it was identified that legislation will be required to enable the health diversion programme. An operational subgroup has been established to advise on the operation of for the health screening and brief interventions. This includes development of operational procedures, supporting the recruitment of the SEER practitioners, the people who will deliver on the assessment and brief interventions, liaising with the HRB on the Health Research Board on data collection and development of an IT system to record and report on the intervention. To support the establishment of the health diversion programme, 0.7 million was provided to the HSE to establish a national network of health screening and brief interventions services for participants of the health diversion programme, recruitment of those SEER practitioners is at various stages in each of the community health offices areas, and it is expected that the practitioners will be in place in all 9 areas by Q4 of this year. So progress is being made on the health diversion programme in Ireland, which is a good thing. That's it.
Well done,
Thank you.
Johnny.